Now, do you think it's possible that the case of Chris Benoit, where he murdered his wife and small child, could have been demonic related, as he wasn't really known to have the personality that would do that type of thing before? And I believe alcohol was also involved, from what I understand. So maybe that would have helped open those pathways, and possibly in theory.
I'm glad you're bringing this up because I never met Chris Benoit, but I've read about him. I've really dug into this thing over the years because, like you, and I think you and I, and maybe this is why I wanted you to interview me, because we have this in common that we're truth seekers. And boy, once I get something in my head, I want to really dig into that and get at, why this happened. I always want to know why people do and say the things that they do and say. And in this situation, without knowing the man, just based on maybe seeing some videos or photographs of him, I will say this. I do feel that he was spiritually affected in some way. Now, what way? I don't know. And perhaps it was something that happened in his childhood for all we know. I don't know. But I do feel, and here's another thing, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Nancy. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, but let's speak the truth. The truth of the matter here is that Nancy, whether it was a gimmick or not, was with Kevin Sullivan in that devil worship gimmick. And Hannibal, we have to be very, very careful when we cross into these areas. I'm telling you right now, we have to be very careful, because even though it may be an act, the devil can still come in through that. Even though it's an act and there's no real intent to summon or anything like that, the devil can still use that as a legal right, and God will allow it because of free will. So perhaps, without really knowing the answer, perhaps there was something there that may have been attached to her through that type of thing. And then definitely looking at videos and photos of Chris Benoit, I would have to say that I do feel that he had something spiritually going on very wrong in his life.
And according to reports, a lot of the information I've read, he was always a strong atheist. If anyone brought up religious stuff, he would cut it down. But supposedly, in the few months before his death, he started becoming more religious. And I guess there was a Bible left near his son after he killed his son. So that's was one of the unusual things about those killings.
I just can't wrap my mind around it, and again, I've read so much and dug into this so much. And how do you, how can a person, and look, I've dealt with every type of situation that you can think of. I have been in life-threatening situations where people wanted to kill me. Believe me, I've been in those types of situations. I just, I really, again, looking at some of these videos and everything, it looked like he had so much love for his child. Okay, things happen domestically between, a husband and wife. Certainly, it should never go to that level. It shouldn't go to any type of physical level when there's problems between a husband and wife. But then when you bring a little child into this, I mean, how in the world? I just can't, even trying to visualize that just makes me sick to my stomach. I don't understand it.
The horror that the child must have been feeling is horrible. But you brought up Kevin Sullivan's name. I know that you actually had an experience with Kevin Sullivan. I would consider myself friends with him, but do you want to tell me your experience? You ended up having a friendly conversation, but it started off a little unusual.
Oh, it sure did. This was, I'd have to say, probably late 80s, somewhere around maybe, I don't know, 88, somewhere in that area. I was in a gym called Powerhouse Gym, and that was located, it's no longer there, but it was in Linthicum, Maryland, right near Baltimore Washington International Airport. So when the wrestlers came into town, they would train at that gym. So I trained, I was training by myself on that day, but I had a training partner who worked the front desk at Powerhouse, and I got to know some of the wrestlers through him. But on this day, I was training arms, biceps by myself, and I'm on the curl machine, and I try to mind my own business, Hannibal. I just try to stay to myself. but yet I'm working out and I just happen to look up, and then over across the room, 30 or 40 feet over, I see Kevin Sullivan. Now I know the wrestlers, and I knew that, it was Kevin Sullivan. He didn't know me. But I look over and he's staring at me, and I'm going, okay, maybe he's looking at somebody behind me or something like that. So rest for a second. I go to another set, stop. I look over, and I mean, he is truly staring a hole through me. And I'm going, now at this point, I'm going, okay, what am I going to be in a fight here in a second or something? I don't know what's going on here. I mean, this guy doesn't even know me as far as I'm concerned. I knew who he was, but and so then he comes over, and now I'm preparing myself. I'm thinking, man, this could really get physical here in a second. And he comes over, and very quietly, he says, "Do you mind if I work in?" I said, "Sure." He says, "What's your name?" I said, "Bill." And he started to say, "I'm Kevin." I said, "I know who you are." And so from there, we ended up having a very good conversation. We worked in on the bicep machine, but boy, Hannibal, was that ever bizarre. I'll never, and I have to say this too. He must have really been living the gimmick back then, because he had these dark, and I don't know if it was makeup or it was just that he partied all night or something, but he had these really dark, I don't know. You'd have to ask him the next time if he remembers it. He had these really dark circles under his eyes, and man, he just looked very menacing.